Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Oh, and don't forget to share it with your friends, because, trust me, you're going to want to spread the word about this wild college football playoff race. Let's dive in. The Zombie Tide are back from the dead. Alabama's unexpected playoff hopes are alive. Okay, folks, gather around, because we've got a real comeback story brewing in the world of college football. And no, I'm not talking about the plot to the next Fast and Furious movie. This is the wild tale of the Alabama Crimson Tide. A team that everyone was ready to bury, until, out of nowhere, they started clawing their way back into the college football playoff race. That's right, the Zombie Tide are alive. It wasn't that long ago that Alabama's playoff hopes seemed as dead as a doornail. Remember that dramatic, nail-biting, exasperating 24-3 loss to Oklahoma? That's when Alabama fans, myself included, were ready to put the team on life support and say, good night. Sweet prince. That loss was bad, real bad. Fans were freaking out. Coaches were probably having a few extra cups of coffee to stay awake. And the only thing that seemed to matter was that Alabama's playoff hopes were dead and buried. Heck, even their biggest fans were ready to start drafting their apology letters for their previous optimism. But hold up, just wait a second. Fast forward to the latest college football playoff, CFP, rankings. And guess what? Alabama is sitting at a sweet little number 11 spot. Yes, you heard that right, no. 11, as in, the very last at-large spot in the playoff picture. How did we get here? Well, buckle up, because the road to recovery is a lot bumpier and wilder than you might expect. Legends rant that went from doom to boom. Let's rewind the tape a bit. Just a couple of Mondays ago, if you were watching the Paul Feinbaum show, you probably witnessed an absolute meltdown of legendary proportions. You know who I'm talking about, Legend. An Alabama fan who has the emotional range of a roller coaster, was spiraling out of control. With his trademark passion and a bit of creative flair, he called for the firing of coach Kalen DeBoer after the ugly loss to Oklahoma. You could almost hear him yelling from the screen, "Man, I've never been so embarrassed in all my life." And if that wasn't enough, he went on to compare Alabama's situation to his aunt, who'd been married about 8 times, saying, "You can't fix stupid, but you can divorce it." Well, okay then, ouch. To be fair, I was right there with him. After Alabama's loss to Oklahoma, it felt like the Tide was on its last legs, and I was ready to hit the panic button. Fans everywhere were saying things like, "That's it, we're out, and let's just prepare for next season." But guess what? After all that screaming and gnashing of teeth, it looks like Legend was, well, wrong. The Zombie Tide, as it turns out, are very much alive. Alabama's unexpected revival. So, how did Alabama claw its way back into playoff contention? A little thing called the college football playoff rankings. Baby, just when the haters thought the Tide was done for, Alabama finds itself ranked number 11. The very last at-large team still in the conversation. Sure, their 9-3 record includes some questionable losses to unranked teams like Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. But guess what? The Crimson Tide still have a big advantage when it comes to their strength of schedule. With victories over teams like number 5 Georgia, number 14 South Carolina, and number 19 Missouri, Alabama has a resume that keeps it in the conversation. The committee looked at Alabama's 3-1 record against top 25 teams and 6-1 mark against teams with winning records. And they gave Alabama the edge over other teams with less impressive resumes. Take Miami, for example. They're 10-2 but have 0 wins against ranked teams. Alabama, on the other hand, has beaten teams like Georgia, and you know how big that win was for their playoff hopes. Alabama's impressive schedule and signature victories have kept them in the playoff picture despite their earlier hiccups. Clemson, UNLV, and the pitfalls that could kill Alabama's dreams. But hold on, the Tide's playoff hopes still aren't safe just yet. Here comes the drama. Number 17 Clemson still has a shot to steal an at-large bid if they can beat number 9 SMU in the ACC title game. If that happens, the committee might slide Clemson into the playoff field and push Alabama out. And don't forget number 20 UNLV. If they manage to win the Mountain West and Boise State still holds onto a high ranking, things could get very tight for Alabama. It's not over until it's over. The SEC bias argument. Is Alabama really just a TV ratings play? Now, we all know the critics will come. They'll claim that Alabama only got into the playoff rankings because they're Alabama. They'll say that the committee put them in because they're a big brand with a massive fan base. And nothing says TV ratings like the Crimson Tide. Oh, and don't even get me started on Ole Miss. They'll probably be throwing a fit, saying, "But we beat Georgia, and we beat South Carolina." They'll point to their 2 wins over top 25 teams and argue that they deserve to be higher than Alabama. But here's the thing. The committee isn't having it. The CFP rankings are based on more than just TV hype. The numbers don't lie. Alabama has a stronger strength of schedule. And that's why they're ahead of teams like Ole Miss and Miami. Sure, Alabama has a couple of ugly losses. But their wins speak for themselves. And the committee's chair, Ward Manuel, said it best. That is set on how we see them going into the final week. And there is nothing that is going to change. Zombie Tide. The tale of the resurging Crimson. Let's pause for a moment here. Can we just appreciate how wild this whole thing has been? Alabama fans were ready to give up. And now, they're all back in it. You've got fans in Tuscaloosa breaking out their old Alabama gear and chanting for the playoff. It's like a horror movie where the villain comes back from the dead, and you just can't look away. The Zombie Tide aren't dead. People, they might have had some seriously rough patches. But Alabama is back in the hunt. And they're fighting for that final playoff spot with all they've got. Remember, this is Alabama we're talking about. If there's one thing they know how to do, it's rise from the ashes when everyone least expects it. What's next for Alabama? What happens next? Well, Alabama has a serious shot at making the playoff. But it's far from a guarantee. They'll have to stay ahead of the pack, keep winning, and pray for some other teams to slip up. But one thing's for sure, if Alabama does make it into the playoff, it's going to be a wild ride. Well, folks, there you have it. The Zombie Tide is back in the hunt for a playoff spot. And it's about to get real interesting in the final weeks of the season. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and, of course, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the exciting college football action coming your way. The playoff race is heating up, and we'll be right here with all the updates. Roll Tide. Whether they're dead or alive, they sure know how to make things exciting.